Hey everyone, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're plunging headfirst into the neon-veined alleys of Darkness City. We're going to unravel the incredibly grim, totally visceral story of a dark elf named Victoria. Now, this is definitely not your typical fantasy tale, okay? It's a deep, dark look at a character who absolutely refuses to be anything but a monster. She's constantly pushing back against the light that wants to destroy her and the darkness that desperately wants to control her. So let's get into it and tell the story of how this beast was forged. I am the rage. Without it, I'm nothing. Just let that sink in for a second. For Victoria, rage isn't just some fleeting emotion. It's literally her entire identity. It is the core fuel that keeps her going when everything else in the universe seems completely determined to crush her, freed her, or warp her into something else entirely. And her path? Well, it's paved in absolute chaos. She literally sheds her elven skin to become a feral panther beast, turning the city's red light district into her own personal hunting ground. She takes on titans, she battles witches, and she even defies cosmic horrors that are actively trying to pull her strings. Honestly, she's just a relentless force of destruction. Which brings us to part one, the Beast of Darkness City. I really want you to picture this atmospheric setting. Imagine an oily, crimson rain slicking the pavement, broken neon signs flickering in the gloom, and this constant, heavy stench of decay and cheap vice everywhere. It's right here, in this literal cesspool, that Victoria reaches her breaking point. She's pushed completely over the edge by the untouchable, effortless success of her rival Sigrid. Every rumor she hears of Sigrid's power is like a knife twisting in her chest. And finally, in this flooded, corrupted alleyway, she snaps. But this rage exacts a brutal physical toll. We are definitely not talking about some sparkly magical transformation here. Her skin burns, her bones literally crack and reshape, and she completely sheds her elven form to become this massive feral black panther. With totally unhinged amber eyes, she turns the streets into a slaughterhouse, just tearing through anyone in her path in a blind frenzy. That is, until her bloody rampage is abruptly halted by Vali. He's this towering enforcer of the city, and he drops this cold, hard truth on her. Jungle's got rules. But he doesn't just stop at words. To end her slaughter, Vali hits her with a punch powered by raw starlight. And we aren't talking about knocking her down the block. He hits her so hard, she is literally launched out of the atmosphere, flung straight into the freezing void of orbit. Talk about a forced timeout, right? And that leads right into part two. An endless cycle of defeat. You see, for Victoria, death isn't really an escape. It's more like a schedule. A year ago, she's surviving the freezing vacuum of space. Every week, she's routinely impaled by iron spikes that burn her flesh like acid. And then there's Eternity, her most bizarre defeat, where she is literally trapped by a librarian named Saga in a time-looping narrative vault. Just imagine the psychological torment of this vault. Victoria charges with all her feral, world-ending rage, only to be constantly frozen mid-air by the stroke of a librarian's pen. She's forced to relive the crushing impact of Vali's fist and the burning iron of Alyssa's spikes on an endless loop. It is literally a cage made of words and time, specifically designed to break a monster who physically cannot be broken. Alyssa's arrogant mockery here, saying they bind her, burn her, bury her, and just do it all over again, really highlights the central tragedy of Victoria's existence. She's a creature of the void who cannot die. She can only suffer. The Light Elves basically see her as a pest, a monster they can endlessly torture and bury, knowing she will inevitably claw her way out of the dirt to face them again. It really makes you wonder if immortality is actually a gift or just an infinite capacity to suffer. So, let's look at part three, Puppets of the Void. Victoria is caught in this horrifying tug-of-war. On one side, you have the Light Elves, Alyssa, Diana, Sigrid, who just want to hunt and neutralize her using magic and iron. But on the other side, her supposed allies in the Ministry, figures like Reverend Flowers and Voodoo, and honestly, they are arguably worse. They don't want her dead, they want to completely strip away her free will and use her body as an eldritch vessel for their dark armies. And that brings us to Vodo. Now, Vodo represents the ultimate violation of Victoria's autonomy. We're talking about an ancient parasitic entity that manifests as black oil and writhing tentacles. Vodo literally nests inside Victoria's body, trying to rewrite the very fabric of reality from within, using her flesh to birth itself into the physical world. It is a terrifying, highly invasive threat. But despite being vastly outmatched by these cosmic powers, Victoria's sheer, stubborn defiance is incredible here.
She violently rejects this white suit of rebirth offered by reverent flowers, much preferring her own ragged existence. She slashes frantically at Voto's invasive tentacles. She absolutely refuses to be an obedient minion. It's a desperate fight for autonomy that is actually universally relatable, fighting tooth and nail to maintain your own identity, even if your identity is being a monster.
Then Voto drops this grotesque line, "You didn't vomit me up, you birthed me." It perfectly captures the whispered manipulations of her dark masters. It's a horrifying reminder to Victoria that she isn't just a victim here. Her own bottomless rage and hatred are exactly what invited this eldritch darkness inside in the first place. The monster she cultivated essentially became the perfect home for a worse one.
Which brings us to a really crucial turning point. Part 4. The Temptation of Peace.
Suddenly, the plasma blasts and the tentacles fade away. The pacing slows down. In a flooded alley under an eerie crimson moon, Victoria looks into a pool of black oil and sees a reflection of herself. But this mirror self isn't snarling. It's totally calm. She is finally confronting the one thing she fears most: absolute peace.
The reflection makes this incredible offer trade places with me. Let me carry the rage. You can rest. For a brief, agonizing heartbeat, Victoria actually feels the lure of this temptation. I mean, imagine the relief, the prospect of never waking up in a freezing vacuum, never being pinned by spikes, never looping through a narrative vault ever again. The offer is, quite literally, salvation.
So what does she do? Let's go to part 5, Embracing the Rage.
This is the ultimate climax of her story. Step 1, she definitely feels that powerful lure of peace and rest. But step 2, she realizes the cost. Without her rage, she isn't Victoria anymore. That rage is her shield against the Light Elves and her armor against Voto. So, step 3, she refuses the trade entirely. She shatters the reflection, actively destroying her one chance at salvation. As the black oil surges outward and floods the district, she is left entirely alone in the epicenter. She turns and walks away, her amber eyes burning, leaving oily footprints behind. She stared redemption right in the face and basically said, "No thanks." She actively chooses the endless, brutal cycle. So I'm going to leave you with this final question to ponder. If finding peace means completely losing yourself, is it actually better to remain a monster? We often think of monsters as mindless beasts, but Victoria proves that sometimes being a monster is a fiercely protected choice. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I hope this deep dive into Darkness City gave you plenty to think about. See you next time!